what our company does as well is lower the barrier entry to get access to real estate investing, right? And I think there's a lot of different regulations that play into the favor of what we're doing right now, which is advantageous for us, but really is advantageous for our community.
What up, though, Black Fridays family? Welcome back to another installment of the Black Fridays podcast. Now, before we get into today's episode, you got to make sure you subscribe on all major streaming platforms. Hit that like, subscribe button, and then tap in with episodes with previous guests and make sure you get some of this wisdom. All right, so now that we got that out the way, I got two of the homies in the building, Daniel, Zach Easterly. How y'all boys doing today?
Wonderful. Blessed.
Wonderful.
Blessed to be here.
Good. Happy y'all pulled up on us to the Black Fridays podcast. Now, you all are doing something very unique, and I love the concept of what you all are building in terms of WeCannBe and then also the 40 Acres app and providing people equitable opportunities in order to gain and build wealth. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So, yeah, we're in the space of real estate technology.
Social impact, too.
Social impact, social finance. And it's a very niche position to be in, right? Where we're focusing on fractionalizing, tokenizing real estate assets in our community, right? Giving people access to real estate both here locally as well as globally, right? Through investing.
Mm-hmm. And I got to ask y'all, how did y'all meet? How did y'all come together to make this happen?
So this is my older brother. So we
know each other for a long time.
We know each other our whole life, but really through our experiences, it was something that we've always kind of wanted to do and work together in terms of building a business. We always had aspirations of having a nonprofit that helped people in different ways.
You're
right?
talking about this for since I know financial literacy is something that we've been speaking on for years, and I know that for me in particular, I know Daniel has his own way, but for me particularly, not to cut you off, but there was a lot of growing up here, being in the city, that there's not a lot of opportunities and resources here. And when it comes down to financial literacy, there's a lot of us that really are not in tune with our money. And for us, that was a sad thing to see our community not in the know of what's going on, especially when it comes down to investments, when it comes down to handling their family duties, when it comes down to like life insurance, investments, when it comes down to buying a home, owning your home. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of stuff that they didn't know about. And I think that was the catalyst by far, as being able to know that we're giving our community an opportunity to learn, then at the same time invest in something that is beneficial.
Yeah, and have true ownership, really, right? Mm-hmm. I know that's escaped us in ways where I know 52% of people who are in Detroit who apply for mortgages, right, will be denied, right? And what our company does as well is lower the barrier entry to get access to real estate investing, right? And I think there's a lot of different regulations that play into the favor of what we're doing right now, which is advantageous for us, but really is advantageous for our community, right? So.
And then you all being brothers, was this something that was preached in your households that you were taught growing up, or was this something that you learned later on along the way and then had the same ideas and values around financial literacy and opportunities around that?
So our dad is a minister, mom's a teacher, right? So we had the discipline in our family, right? Between football and...
Are you talking about the butt whooping or something like that? What you talking about? No,
allegedly. But really, some of those things help out, right? In terms of getting your mind right, in terms of what you have to do. Sometimes it's needed, but I think genuinely from those teachings of our parents, but a combination of our own own individual experiences got us to this point, right? I've been in financial technology, where I was both a salesperson and an engineer for a company called Intuit, where I worked with things like QuickBooks, Pro Series, TurboTax, right? I worked on those teams, right, and learned a lot about different types of financial systems, as well as blockchain technology, things that actually play into our application as well. And from there, I got into cybersecurity, where I learned how cybersecurity kind of overlays every technology that we ultimately use, right? And that's why it's so imperative for people in our community to embrace technology, right? Because when we run from technology, it puts us at a disadvantage. And there's other people that are using technology to their advantage, and it's growing a gap that we need to close. And I think we've have a combination of experiences between both myself and Zachary, and it got us to this point for sure.
I say growing up, we always had like some level of business, something that we wanted to do. I know that, in the city, there was a big park out in front of our yard. We wanted to start like a football league within the yard, in the park in front of our house. Unfortunately, that didn't goes well, because the guy that owned, the people that were those people that look over the neighborhood watch. Yeah, they were telling us, like, as kids, like, now y'all can't do that. If y'all, so they was trying to put stipulations on that, how we can do that. Then, I know that we also tried to do like gift baskets growing up. So there was always some level of trying to start something.
And they've always figured that we have another brother too. So that's a entrepreneur, poet, all this stuff too. And he was into graphic design. He was into all these different things. He's a CTO for some company now overseas. Yeah, overseas. And he's in technology even himself to a certain extent, right? And he owned a business in high school where he was making graphics, doing different things, even and outside of the football things that we did when we were younger. When I was in high school, I created a production company where I was doing videos for different athletes while I was playing football, right? And making highlight tapes for them, looking up coaches' addresses, looking up their emails, and actually sending off these highlight tapes to different people in for different people and different athletes in the city of Detroit, right? And that was one of my first entry points into sales, as well as technology, right? Working with the computer, doing different things, and then also helping people to really set up a business for themselves by making them into an athlete that had the ability to get multiple scholarships, right? So I think it's a combination of all of our experiences, right? That got us here for sure.
That's dope.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go deeper into the story, but first I gotta introduce y'all to my favorite part, which is Freestyle Fridays. Oh. So, y'all two technicians, y'all should be equipped to give us some bars.
Oh man,
listen, you got the wrong one. You gonna be upset. Hey,
I got some songs though.
I know. You gonna be upset. Don't play.
Y'all just told me y'all brother a poet, so I mean I need to. I got some
poetry.
I got some bars for you now.
We give you some time to write something. You want some bars? You talking about freestyle? It's a rap. I got some bars for you now.
Now we can do the bars or the poetry, I should say, or we could do rapid fire questions. It's up to y'all.
I can get some poetry off the top of my head.
I got a poem that's relevant. I don't know to the
come up with something.
I got some spoken word for sure, always in my back pocket.
All right, let's do it then. Let's hear it.
It's depending on what you want to hear.
You said you had something that's relevant, so.
I've been doing this poem. I do several different poems, but I think it's just a poem that is really relevant. I wrote it during a time where the George Floyd incident, right, where he was killed, and I started performing it literally in the last 2 or 3 years. But it's called "Black Lives Have to Matter," right? And I can do it for you.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm listening.
Okay. Black lives have to matter. The top doesn't feel so sure anymore when you get used to living at the bottom. I used to roll like I could never lose. Used to hit and yell, I got him. But what I learned was what doesn't break a man makes a man, and it takes a man to make a man, so why not be good to your brother? Black man, I love you. Because I can be better, you can be better, we can be better together. They just have to let up. They just have to let us, and we have to break loose and remove the noose as we stand tall because we know who we are. We're black and we're proud. My black is beautiful. My back is bold. Sometimes it has to be loud. Sometimes it has to roar. Sometimes it has to fly. Sometimes it has to soar. My black is beautiful like I've been kissed by the sun. We are not in shackles, but they have mentally enslaved our sons and daughters. They have imprisoned our fathers and raped our mothers. So where is the peace and protection for me and you? What about our future? And how do we handle the past? Who will set the standard for how freedom will last? I know this cannot be all. Man, this cannot be it. Because I feel like I'm on an island, stranded. And you see these burning buildings as an SOS. I just ask you to remove your knee from my brother's neck because he just wants to breathe and he just wants respect. Can someone save our souls? Does our black deserve neglect? How can I not wake up with PTSD when I saw my brother die in HD, TV, and clearly you can't see our worth? We are kings and queens. We come from this earth. You're black. You're black, you're black, you're black is one of God's most heavenly creations. And true change takes patience. But I know my brothers are tired of hearing their mothers say they're tired because there goes another black man hanging like strange fruit. So how could we ever be peaceful if our peace has not been given? Black lives have to matter before we ever give in.
It's fire. Oh, my bad. You're right. Yeah, we're gonna get it. Zach, I need to ask you to go after that. That was that was the mic drop.
Magic.
But yeah,
fresh as I am. No,
but yeah, it's a combination, and I'm the youngest brother between the three of us. So the great thing about my position is I got to learn from some great guys. Right, my dad, my oldest brother added a lot of value. My second oldest brother added a lot of value, and I learned a lot of the things that I learned from them, and just took it to another level in terms of Julian being the poet and me learning how to write poetry and saying, okay, I'm going to do it a little bit different, do it my own way, right? And I think that's also something that's valuable to our team, right? Is that we just kind of connect in a way that we build each other up, even when it's at odds or we're, working with your family can be tough, right? But yeah, I think the great thing about what we have is that we've learned from each other. And we recognize it even when there is those times where like, man, we got to do this and it's rough, So yeah.
That's dope. So Zach, I'm gonna ask you at the part of Freestyle Friday, since you ain't give us no bars. I'm gonna ask you what is your thing? Because it seems like with Daniel, he gets into music, he's into poetry. So like, what is your like hobby or your thing that you enjoy?
For me, I used to play sax, and I'm actually wanting to pick it back up. I played it all the way up until like my freshman year in high school, and unfortunately, football got a hand of me. And once I got a hold of football, and when football came along and I understood that football was able to pay for school, I took that on full fledged. But now, don't get it twisted. Like if I unfortunately, my sister, which camera? Look, my sister lost my instrument, so now I feel like I have to go buy me another one, and I raise right now. I feel like there is a need, for me, there is a need for creativity. And for me, that was my level of creativity when it came down to music. Like I said, I don't rap. If you gave me some time to put together a poem, I definitely can, for sure. Okay. But off the top, no, I'm not a freestyler. I'm not a person who just spit something off the top of the dome.
I'm a freestyler.
And then at the same time, I'm like, listen, you listen to hip hop. I don't know. You might the hip hop might not even go the right y'all expected. So I try. Let me not even do it. Let me not even do it. But no, music always been the thing. Like if. I was in the choir too. I used to sing. So I can carry a tune.
So y'all all musically.
I can put something on the thing if you want me to give a good song. You know what I'm saying? I can do that.
No, but we all played the instrument. Zach played the saxophone. Julian played the piano and could sing. My little sister sung. She played the saxophone, the flute, I believe. Right. I played the drums when I was in high school, all the way up through leaving to college. Right.
So
we all got into football.
I was at the Jacksons.
Yeah. And I would consider myself kind of a renaissance man and how I kind of move.
I sang. I definitely Played the instrument. I always played the instrument. So the saxophone was by far my favorite thing to do.
Fire.
So, but hobby wise, listen, man, if I want to bowl or something like that, like that's another thing I'm good at too. You know what I'm saying? Like, huh?
You won't smoke if somebody trying to bowl.
Anybody want to smoke? Listen.
Except me.
Listen.
Then if I step on the bowling alley, no, just kidding.
Yeah, I smoke him too.
For sure. Well, I appreciate y'all for engaging in Freestyle Fridays. We got a fire poem. Then also got to learn that the whole family is musically inclined, which is super dope. So I got to ask y'all, given the fact we talked a little bit about it earlier in terms of your upbringing and finances was something that was talked about in the household. What is your earliest memories of those lessons that were taught about finances? Was it like when you got to high school and possibly got a debit card, or was it later on in life? Like, when do you feel like your earliest memory of understanding what finances were?
I remember mine. I remember my dad bringing in like different color crayons, piggy bank crayons, and
these huge crayon cases. They were piggy banks.
So
really
piggy banks.
huge.
And I remember like before we moved to Detroit, now granted I was raised in Detroit. Detroit is home, but we was before we moved here, we was in Kansas City, and we was in this small apartment. And I remember my pops bringing in. He was like, "Son, you start putting your little money." So I remember for me, like, when he started showing me that he was putting his money away, for me it was just something simple, like simple. Like, so whenever I remember when I was a kid, I get a full check for my birthday, or I get a $50 for my birthday. I didn't spend it. I put it in my piggy bank.
He did.
So
he ran to that piggy bank.
I was never.
You wasn't a spender.
I wasn't a spender. I'm still not a spender like that. I'm kind of a cheapskate. I can say that. I can say I'm not mad. Listen, y'all can't hurt my feelings about that. I think I was a mad spender, a mad saver for sure. And so that was my first process of actually saving. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get my first bank account until like later on, like in high school. So, but then even then, it was more of like, okay, well, how can I manage my money, especially going off to school, going off to college, managing my money, making sure that I'm not overdoing it. So I always tried to make sure that I had, for me, the easiest way for me was like separating my bank accounts, right? I had multiple, within my personal bank account, I had separate bank accounts to where, I was saving $20, $30 every paycheck. People don't understand that $20, $30 if you're able to do it. And let's say you have a second bank account somewhere else that you don't even see it, that $20, $30 start to add up. And people don't, if you just let it go out your paycheck, you won't even remember it. It was coming out your paycheck. You probably won't even notice it. Yeah. But that little stuff showed me like, all right, I have to make sure that you put your 30% away for your housing and stuff like that. Have your 20-30% for your food. So you're making sure that you're taking care of yourself. So, for me, my pops and my mom really kind of taught me how to, like, all right, you gotta, if you want to be out here, you gotta be able to save and manage your money. Make sure you put your money aside for certain aspects, for certain events if you want to do something. So I was always pretty good with, dealing with my budgeting, my money and stuff like that. So
for sure.
Yeah. And for me, I had a similar experience, but I think I learned more about money as I got older. Right, in terms of going to school, making a couple of mistakes and then fixing them, and then understanding that saving is great, but then investing is a different thing, right? And I think a lot of people, and I learned this through working for Intuit, right? And I've wrote a couple books now, but you think about investing in terms of saving too. Right. Mm-hmm. And investing is a savings account that gives you the ability to make more of a percentage than a regular savings account. Right. And a lot of people don't understand that vehicle to the point where they would make their investments their saving account, right? In a sense, right? Because you have the ability to understand historical data that gives you more money as you go. And for me, when I worked for Intuit, that's what I learned. And that's why I learned about investing into cryptocurrency, blockchain, Bitcoin and stuff like that, because that's where I learned it. Then I learned about how to read stock markets, to where majority of my money started going into stock, right? And that's where I spent majority of my time, just focusing on learning how the stock market is affected, how I could ultimately maximize how much money I was making per year. Because I was in sales too for financial technology. It taught me what ultimately affected stock, right? And it's the sales of a company. This is how much a company selling of a product, and if a company has bad news, right? If it has a bad reputation, it affects it negatively. Is it a stock that gradually over the 1 year, 3 month, 5 year, 10 year span of a stock, does it go up and give you a constant return of 7 to 15 to 20%, depending on that stock? And that was my biggest teacher, I believe, for me, to where it expanded my mind around money, because I have the same experience there in terms of the piggy bank and saving. And that's where it started, right? And then when I learned about investing, I became almost obsessed and saying, like, man, it's almost like a football game. It's a game of inches, right? It's saying there's quarters to a football game, 4 quarters. There's 4 quarters to a year. If I can understand that there's a game of inches happening day in and day out, I can understand stock and how it changes all the way down to the penny, to the second, right? And that's what day trading is. Then you think about the long-term trading, and that's really where I thrive. Majority of the time is saying, if I'm really trying to save money, right, why would I not invest it? Why would I not put it into something that's going to give me a higher return than a bank account that I'm going to be sitting on 1% pennies every year?
So I wanted y'all to, if you can, invite us into the world of WeCannBe and what it is that you all offer in terms of services, and then the mission that you're on. Because when we were talking before we started rolling, you had mentioned that you all have been entrepreneurially inclined since you were younger. You had this idea. You've been working on it for a while. It's seen different iterations, but you're hitting your stride now with where it is WeCannBe. So if you can kind of take us through that journey and then let us know what it is that the services that you're offering through the nonprofit.
WeCannBe is a nonprofit that we have, right, that focuses on education in terms of financial, digital literacy, directed towards real estate innovation, right? So we talk about a curriculum built around blockchain technology, AR, VR, right? 3D printing, social finance, talking about how social finance is the new social media, right? It's a new form of how it's a concept, right? But in the future, that is kind of what that would be, and saying, hey, there's a new model in terms of how people socialize around money. Right. And that's the base for WeCannBe. I know Zachary is more into the nonprofit side of everything, and I'm more on the for-profit, but Zachary will have to say it. Yeah. But it's the combination of both of our businesses are really making us a social enterprise, if you will, right? In terms of WeCannBe being our nonprofit arm, and then 40 Acres being our for-profit arm. In terms of our
doing
business.
a lot. To be able to know that we are reaching the community as much as we possibly can, because without the community, we don't have an app. You know what I'm saying? And we need the community to be in tune to what we have going on, because of the simple fact that, like I said, if people don't know what blockchain is, if people don't know what crypto is, people don't know what it takes to be a part of it. Like, even the fact that people don't understand that, you know, if you're already doing tap, Google Pay, Apple Pay, if they don't even know that that's the level of blockchain right there, right? So we want to be able to give the community the same type of knowledge that we know, and be able to know that when they are ready to get out and be able to invest within, like I said, the 40 Acres app, they are able to now be
an active member, right?
An active member, in their own community, but at the same time have a vote within their community, and then be knowledgeable about the app to be able to know that they can do any investments. Because granted, we're starting with real estate, but this is going to go further than just real estate. We're planning on doing multiple industries, to where now you can invest in, micro invest in, and fractionally invest into. So this is just the beginning, and anybody that is part of this is just being able to know that you're getting on the ground floor to be able to have something that's brand new. And we want to be able to teach it to you and teach you what the app is about while at the same time you're now garnering other tools and other trades, as like Daniel stated, 3D printing. Understanding where VR, AR and VR is, to be able to know that they have the vision to be able to now sit there and say, okay, with this 3D printed home, I can set my house up like this, and be able to now build it the way I wanted to, my vision, how I envisioned it. So with that, we had to have an understanding that with WeCannBe, it's very important. It's very important because, like I said, our community is very is lacking within that sense of knowledge, and unfortunately, with that, a lot of community, we just trying to get to as many people that see the vision, understand the vision, and that want to learn and want to take advantage of this great opportunity. Because, like I said, if you do it now, if you start now, I'm pretty sure you're going to be excited within the next 10, 15 years what can happen to you.
And I think that's one of the biggest things of what we do too, is because we're teaching people while helping people get into that space, right? And I think before the show, we talked about Jay-Z saying the 1% of, I would rather have a 1% of something that's special, right, than 100% of something that's nothing, right? And I think that is what our business ultimately is for our community too, is saying that you have the opportunity to not only just learn, but also get your piece of that big spending that we have. You have the ability to get your piece of real estate. You have the ability to get your piece of all of these different aspects of things that you are helping to create, right? And that's what social finance really is. It's saying, hey, I'm in a position now to have ownership in the things that I create, and I get to keep it, right? I get to share it with people that are in my community first, and then decide, right, if I want to share on a global level. And a lot of times you sharing on a global level also just benefits you more, right? And I think there's a socioeconomic aspect to what we do, right? Where you think about the individual to the community, to the government, to the world, right? And there's a string that kind of goes between those people back to the individual. And how do you pull the globe down to the individual level and give you access, right? And I think that's what we have figured out in this process, and saying we can teach you how to affect change on a socioeconomic level, right? And that's
specifically the community. Because I think
it starts with the community. You can't do anything globally without starting in your community anyway.
Even what we can be with, there's a lot of, like, granted, we talking about real estate, and that's the whole point of, like I said, 40 acres in general is about the having ownership, right? But with WeCannBe, there's a lot there's a lot more avenues. That's how we stated that with 40 acres, we're not planning on just keeping it just to real estate. We're planning on going further with that. The same way with when it comes down to WeCannBe, we want to be able to know that we're not just touching real estate. We're touching every avenue eventually. Right now, the curriculum is to be able to teach you about the real estate portion of it and the different aspects of what we can do with it. But eventually, we want to be able to grow that as well. We want to be able to know that we're teaching our communities about mutual funds, life insurance policies. Eventually, that's where we want to grow. WeCannBe as well, to where now you're not just knowledgeable in the aspect of real estate. Now you can go in there, like, because what our curriculum is going to do is be able to give you a prerequisite to, if you want to go get your real estate license, or want to go get your appraiser's license, or something along those lines. But eventually, we want to be able to know that you have other opportunities to not just keep yourself within the confines of learning about real estate. Now we give you the option to learn how to do the regular stock market, or give you the opportunity to learn about, like I said, life insurance policies or mutual funds, or any other financial sector that gives you the ability to know that you're investing, your money's working for you. So a lot of us don't even know about saving. Yeah. So to me that is the most important thing, especially when it comes down to how our dollar is spent, because how we spend. Like, I think, and I stated this before we started, is that by 2030, 2034, they're talking about Black people will be at a net zero. We're trying to avoid that. So every opportunity, life insurance is by far the biggest reason why generational wealth is completed. So even with including real estate, all this is basically how generational wealth is being given. So we want to be able to give you every tool. And right now we're starting with the real estate, but eventually we want to try to give you every single tool that possible to be able to know that you're growing mentally, but at the same time financially.
And we have to also just be cognizant that WeCannBe is its own thing too, like, right? So WeCannBe is the nonprofit that is building those things, and then we're giving you guys the application as a
way to apply what you've learned.
What you learned with WeCannBe should be real world applicable, right? You should be able to learn, even if we talk about VR learning, right? You learn differently. There's people who have learning disabilities. They have if somebody wants to be more technical and learn how to do, let's say, a surgery in a low risk environment, there's a way for you to do that virtually, right? And that's taking it to the extreme and saying, hey, and there's apps like that where they show you the inside of a heart. There's different components to that where we're like, hey, we want you to come through this so that once you are in the real world, you have the ability to join some type of futuristic workforce, right? Because there are new jobs being created based on technology. And there's ones that have yet to be discovered. And for us, by creating WeCannBe, we're wanting everyone to have that opportunity. And I think, and I don't know if we said what WeCannBe actually stands for, but WeCannBe stands for with equity, creating a new narrative for Black enterprises, right? And it's us creating that new narrative through these different avenues of digital financial literacy, right? And then that real estate innovation to where you know that you're leaving and doing something great, So
through WeCannBe, how can people access the curriculum, the education that you're providing now? So, for example, are you all going to different organizations and like teaching these things? Is there like a membership that people have to be a part of in order to get this information? Like, how do I access all of the stuff that you're talking about now through WeCannBe? How can I tap into the education if I want to?
So right now, Thursdays, we have 2 events going on. So every Tuesday, we're doing an investor meeting. That's for 40 acres. But at the same time, it also gives you opportunity to donate to WeCannBe because overall, WeCannBe is the creators of the 40 acre app. So whatever you donate, WeCannBe.com, you can donate there. Whatever you do donate gives you an opportunity to be one of the first investors in a property once we have the app up and running. So Tuesdays is where our investors meeting is, and then on Thursdays is going to be our educational point. So you can find us on Eventbrite as well for the Tuesday meeting and the Thursday meetings on Eventbrite.com. And you just type in WeCannBe. And on Thursdays, we're going to really get granular about the blockchain, about the blockchain, where the America's dollar is about to lead us in the next 3 to 10 years. So we're trying to educate people as much as possible about the blockchain because I think there's not enough of us that know about the blockchain. Granted, I think the tech community within Detroit is big to us, but it's very small within its entirety, and we want to be able to get people on the wave of where the country's about to lead to. So on Thursdays, we have those meetings on Thursdays, and WeCannBe.com. You can get that information there as well.
Yeah, so it's weekly where we do all of these different events, right? And we have partnered with Citizens Robotics, Detroit Ledger Tech company, right? We've partnered with Stand With Crypto, right? We've spoken at Black Tech Saturdays for different events, right? And I think a combination of those things, as well as us meeting with government entities, right? We've done a combination of those things in this process. So like Zachary said, on Tuesdays are our investor meetings where you'll learn about 40 acres. You'll learn how that process works. You'll get to demo our application. You'll get to decide on that day if you want to sign up, if you want to tokenize your asset, right? You can come to that meeting and learn how to do that process, right? And get into our application, be one of the first beta testers, download it, right? Because it will be releasing here fully, right? Here in the end of Q4. Right, but then on that Thursday, like Zach is saying, that we'll be doing the educational pieces, but we'll be diving into all of the different pieces, right, gradually, to where we have partners coming into those meetings to give people the ability to learn but also they'll donate in that meeting also in terms of
every meeting we're going to do is be able to donate. Because we're trying to raise as many funds as possible. As again, WeCannBe is a nonprofit, so whatever we do,
you're donating to learn, donating as access to learn, right? So it's one of those things is you learn to earn, right? And we're teaching you all of these things where you'll be able to donate to get access. It also is free, so you can come regardless, right? But we're asking for donations for the.
If you don't give, If you don't give, we're not gonna sit there and be like, "Boo!" No, it's nothing like that. But at the same time, like the good part about it is you're gonna, no matter if you go to the investor meeting or you go to the Thursday educational meeting, you're gonna come out and learn something. So even in the investor meeting, you might not want to give, but you're going to learn at least something about blockchain, at least something about smart contracts.
And then you'll have access to our application to where we also have those different properties to where even if it sparks your interest a little bit, right, you'll be able to right then and there start to invest, right? And we're giving you the ability to invest with as low as $1, $100, depending on the property, the size, right, the business, the size, right? You'll have the ability to invest whatever you feel is comfortable for you, and that's what you'll come out of those meetings on Tuesday every week and have more confidence in doing what we have set up in terms of this process.
For sure. So let me ask you this. In terms of the entire concept of what WeCannBe is about, the 40 Acres app, this is an opportunity to truly practice group economics. It's something that people always talk about, especially the hotels out there. Shout out to y'all, no disrespect. But people always talk about group economics. And I always have the thought of, you don't know how tough that can be, especially in the Black community, because you think about, well, you have X amount of people. If we all could just get together in our neighborhood and give X amount of dollars and yada, yada, yada. I'm like, that all sounds, and then we could do X, Y, and Z. That sounds great. But then you also have to think about, I'm not just giving $50, $20 to the random person down the street to be like, oh yeah, we're going to put all this, pocket up this money together and do X, Y, and Z. Like, there's a level of trust that comes with that, level of competence, education. So I'm wondering, what are y'all thoughts about that mentality? Because obviously it's going to be tough to get people to mobilize and move together as one, and then also that trust factor as well. And like, how can I trust that you're going to do the right thing for these funds when, there's so many horror stories of people doing that opposite?
Right. And that's a great question. That's a great question. Because we talk about it all the time with our researchers and the team that we have, right, is building trust in a community that isn't always trusting. And that's one of the advantages of blockchain technology. That's why we have a back end within our application built on blockchain technology, because the trust is automated, right? It's not you giving us any funds, right? It's you having access to see what is done with your funds from the top of our company, of the government, right, down to the bottom person in the community, and being able to see what's happening. And I think once people are educated on the capacity, once people are educated on what blockchain actually gives you the ability to do, they will understand that the trust is there for you to accept, right? And saying, hey, blockchain has a digital ledger that everyone sees. Blockchain has smart contracts that automate processes to where people aren't touching your money, right? To where when you have a governance that is from the bottom up now, instead of someone governing you from the top, it gives you a voting right on how those different things actually happen for you, right? So I think there's so much trust that people aren't aware of. And through our application, that's another great option and thing that we kind of built into our infrastructure, right? Which is why we believe it's the perfect time for it, right? Is the blockchain community is waiting for cryptocurrency to be passed, because a lot of people on the outside think that cryptocurrency is a scam. They think blockchain technology is a scam. Yeah. But crypto is a byproduct of blockchain technology, right? And when you think about regular technology, cryptocurrency is just money. right? Blockchain technology is literally just like a stock market, a ledger that's giving you records of every transaction that's actually happening, right?
Yeah.
And then it takes it to another level when you add that smart contract aspect to it, where you don't have somebody touching all of your information. You don't have months and months of documentation that is overwhelming for everybody to read, and it's right there at a glance, right? And
one of my professors in grad school mentioned to me that we already use blockchain technology. So
do.
like you using your credit card, debit card, that's blockchain.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And a lot of people don't know that, even to the idea of tokenization, right? On the smallest form, Apple Pay is what tokenization ultimately is. You tap to pay, right, on something, and it gives you a secret message, right, of your data or your credit card data, and it gets stored on a portal where they get a digital version or token, right, of your information. That's not the full information. They can't access your information, use your card, right?
Yeah.
But it shows them the last 4 digits, right? That's a version of tokenization, the process of it, right, on the smallest scale. And they're integrating, and this is the owners of Apple Pay, of all these different companies, they're integrating it into your life because that is the next stage of digital currency. That is the next stage of money. And that is why we have to educate ourselves on these processes, because you won't know while it's happening, but when it's here, you can't deny it, right? And that's why we have to do it the way we're doing it.
By far. And then another way we do trust is the reason why we did doing the nonprofit too. So eventually, because hopefully sometime next year we are doing more community events to where people are coming out and talking about more blockchain and being able to get more of the community involved to understand that, so they know exactly what they're getting themselves into. Because again, we don't want y'all to be lost, because what's going to happen is there's going to be a massive amount of people within the next 3 to 10 years, they're going to be very upset. I mean, highly upset. And it's going to be upset because of the fact that they didn't understand what blockchain is and where the country's about to lead. If you're in America, you already know how much what your dollar is worth. you already see how inflation is going, and our dollar is just getting more worthless as the years go on. You're gonna sit there and be like, well, what's the next move? And then when you put in perspective what China, Russia, Iran is doing, and they're making bricks with the blockchain. Mm-hmm. You're about to miss out on the wave. You're about to miss out on the wave, and you're gonna be surprised when the rest of the world is on one wave and you're sitting here and you're drowning.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the process of the have and the have-nots, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's where it's going to be, is where the technology is there and it's happening. And to your point, it's like a de-dollarization of the globe, where people are moving away from the U.S. dollar as its main currency, right? Mm-hmm. And when you think about cryptocurrency, and people will probably still say it's a scam, even though it's literally being talked about in our election right now, right?
If you use Google Pay or anything,
you're already there. You're already there.
Is it if you really? Yes, you're already there. But then if you think about cryptocurrency in its totality, it's like it hedges against inflation, right? It's one of those things that is limited to where it doesn't give you the same type of inflation that you experience now with the US dollar. And I think that's one of those things that we have to embrace too, and understand and teach, right? Is because people see it as a topic that the politicians are talking about right now, but they don't really understand it. They don't understand the power of that technology. And it takes someone who is in that position to know, and in the knowing, to step out of themselves to say, hey, I'm going to educate a community that doesn't know it. Mm-hmm. And our focus is the underserved community, the people who don't have the ability to see it, right? Mm-hmm. And Detroit is going through a renaissance right now, to where they're trying to give everyone access to internet, right? And you know about that, right?
For sure.
It's like, man, if you're giving everybody access to internet, the internet is stage 1, but then there's Web3, which is the newest version, Internet Plus, right? People don't know about that for real, right? That's the next stage of the internet. And once everyone has access, you have access to the globe, right? And and it's a positioning thing. But we've been very thoughtful about how we expect to build trust, to sustain trust, right, in the processes that we've kind of built between the two companies.
For sure.
Yep.
And you talked about we've talked about blockchain thus far. Can you actually break down for the people who need a firm understanding of what blockchain is? And if you're talking to a 6-year-old, like how can you explain what blockchain is?
So blockchain specifically is a multitude of things, first off, right? But if we're talking,
I'm six. I don't know. You got to break it down to me like I'm a child.
Okay, so breaking it down as to a 6-year-old, blockchain technology is a box of solutions, right? That gives you a digital currency, that gives you a currency, a tool like a coin, right? Mm-hmm. It gives you a database, right, which is what we call like a library. Yeah, what we call blockchain, but technically the name of it is a decentralized ledger, right? Mm-hmm. And that is the library that basically a transaction or a book, right, would be put into that library, and it would not be able to be chained. Once it gets into that library and it happens, right, and it's executed, it's unchangeable.
You wrote a page. Right? You basically made a transaction. You wrote a page in that book, and basically it's pen.
It's permanent.
It's in pen. It's in permanent ink. Mm-hmm. You can't go in there and try to scrub it out or anything like that. It's on the digital. It's digitally inked.
Digitally inked. So when you think about the currency, once it's spent, it's recorded on that page, right? And it's chained to that page for everyone in the library who has access to that library can see.
The library. So if let's say in that library is technically a real estate. It's a piece of real estate.
Right. A tokenized real estate. So when you think about blockchain technology, it goes currency as cryptocurrency as the currency that's being spent. The digital ledger that we call blockchain, that is the recorder of those messages. Then we talk about our business, which is tokenization and fractionalization, which is what we talked about Apple Pay, right? That gives you a secret message or access to it's a secret key that gives you a secret message, right, that you gain access to, right? So on the real estate level, right, when we talk about tokenizing a property, we're turning that real world asset, right, a real world product, something that's tangible, right, into a digital token or secret message, right, that you have access to carry with you wherever you go.
And with that, we want to be able to get, like, even with that, even though it's digital, everything's supposed to be digital. The plan is to be able to give people something tangible. So eventually we want to be able to give you a coin, an actual coin, and you can take that, and that be what you can use to be able to sell, trade, do all that stuff, to be able to see it. Because especially what we literally had this conversation the other day, right, with the guy yesterday. He was talking about older folk. You know, because his thing, he's trying to inform a lot of old folk about what technology is, and the aspect with a lot of older folk, they don't understand what technology is, and they want something they can hold and they can touch, right? So instead of them saying,
come in.
I want to go to the store, I want to use this. And they was like, well, I don't use Apple Pay, I don't know. So giving them something that they can hold on to. And then, like you said, like they said, the 3D printing is the biggest reason why it's something that we're trying to utilize as much, because now we're giving somebody an actual.
If I can put a tangible token in your hand,
so you'll
applies to the
learn. And basically it's a learning tool, right? Yeah. It's saying, hey, we 3D printed something, but we're going to use that for the older generation, older folk, right? But a printed token.
Is that ageism? Is that level ageism?
We're creating. That's fine. But we're creating those tokens in order to educate, right? So that's a part of this process too, right? And saying the people who are in the know about tokenization and tap and all that stuff, they're going to know and use that efficiently, right? But then you have to have something that can transition from them having a token to tap it and then it transitioning out of their hand, right? And I think that's the way that we are planning to ultimately make it a mass adoption by having multiple avenues of teaching, from it being gamified ultimately, in a sense. Hey, this is a gamified process for all people, really, because it's like, hey, you have the ability to have something, purchase something, and it's done for you, right? Immediately, right? So it's,
for sure. Making it real for people.
Making it real. Real world application. That's with our nonprofit, to teach real world applicable things, right? And then teach you how to use the real world applicable aspects of 40 acres too. So that's the tandem there, right?
For sure. So help me understand who is the ideal end user for 40 acres, and then also the ideal person who would leverage WeCannBe.
The ideal user is going to be between, like, we want to do as low as 14, but as right now, since we at the beginning stages, we're trying to hit between 18 and 45.
There's age ranges for both, right? So the we want to be able to teach all ages, right? So we are going as low as 14 all the way up to as old as you want to be, right, or young as you want to be, in that sense. But we're gonna cover all of those bases for sure, because if you want to come out and learn, we're not going to deny you, right? If you want to bring your kids to come learn, we're not going to deny them, right? Because it's an educational thing for everybody. And, we want you to be able to learn so that you can go off to 40 acres and earn. And the demographic for 40 acres is tech savvy individuals, people who are socially conscious, people who are wanting to learn how to invest, the underrepresented, the underserved communities, right? Big time accredited investors, right? People who have a mission to gain ownership, right? Those are our demographics for our community. But then the age is a range, right? For WeCannBe, and then for 40 acres, it's if you want to make some money, you come there and do it, right? But
got you. Talked about where you are currently stand, the great things that you're doing in terms of education, and then going on the frontier of building and developing an app, which will be out soon. I believe when people see this episode, it will either be very close to being out or out. So I'm curious as to what's next. So what's on the frontier in terms of what do you see immediately ahead of you? What do you see that's on the horizon? And we like to speak on it here on Black Fridays and then see it coming to fruition. So whatever you can share with us that you might be working on or plan to do in the future.
Go ahead.
So we have big plans, right? And scaling, right? And partnering with as many people as we can as we continue to build a community around what we're doing, right? It's a movement that has to happen. When people hear 40 acres, we want them to want to get their piece of what we have going on. So that is our expectation as we kind of go down the road. And as we scale, our hopes is to not just be here locally, right? Because this is our home. This is why we're here doing it. But then you think about the advantages of something like this on a global scale to where we can affect change in the African diaspora, right? And I speak about that in my book, but I want it to be a thing that our company sticks to, right? It's about social impact, social finance, right? And that is our mission. And as we scale, I want that to always be our mission and it never teeter from that being what we do with something so sacred, something that people hear the name and know, hey, 40 acres is something that reminds me of this. It's saying, hey, there's a new connotation that comes with this name. And it's called wealth. It's called wealth building. It's called, hey, ownership in your community. And we want people to gradually get used to having ownership, right? To where it's a thing that you can take pride in, right? And I think when you think about quarters like a game, in this next year, that's what we want, right? Is our community to understand what and why we do what we do. And I think once people understand fully what and why we do what we do, the sky is the limit, right? So what you'll see from us is us building, us adding those new properties, people contacting us to add those new properties to the application, right? Adding new industries, commodities to our platform, going into music, different things like that, because again, those are our experiences and allowing people to have ownership in those things. And that's what I believe will be our progression, right? And, with entrepreneurship, you have your ebbs and flows, right? But with the industries that we have and that we have intersected together here with these this social enterprise, right, is putting us in a position to really be leaders in a very niche industry, right? So we have very high expectations for what we're doing. We have high expectations for the partnerships that we're securing, right? And again, like the sky's the limit for my belief. So
for WeCannBe, the next we have a couple of vendor events because, like I said, we're still we're trying to raise a lot of funds and stuff like that. So I think we have something on November 16th.
And you can tell he's the finance guy, can't you?
November 16th, we have a vendor event with the South Delta Sigma Theta Southfield Alumni chapter at the Evergreen Pavilion from 11 to 2. We'll be there. We'll be selling T-shirts. So this is the base version of it. On the back of it, it says WeCannBe, and on the back it says entrepreneurs, lawyers, doctors, engineers, and entrepreneurs. So that's right now. This is just the base version of it. When we do the event, we should have the ones with our actual logo, the silhouette of, if you haven't seen this, just basically 3 kids on it with WeCannBe on it. It's pretty dope. We kind of it somewhat reminds us of me and my brothers to some degree. But we're selling those T-shirts. We're going to be selling this book there as well, Nation Within the Nation, as well. Also, we're going to try to sell some WeCannBe keychains and stuff like that. So we have that on November 16th and another vendor event where we're going to be at the Raw Space on November 30th. I don't remember that date, that time either, unfortunately. But from there, we're going to also try to do some community service events, being able to get into community, let them know exactly what's going on, about financial literacy, the blockchain, maybe try to do some blockchain events within quarter 2 of next year as well. So be on the lookout for events coming up to be able to, like I said, get the community involved when it comes down to learning more about the blockchain, learning more about 40 acres. I think that, I said also, but I think that would probably be the basis as of right now. But eventually, like I said, the donations, all that we sell is going to go into be able to build out the curriculum for WeCannBe, then also be there to be able to push 40 acres as well. But eventually with WeCannBe, we also, again, want to be able to do the 3D printing, the curriculum for 3D printing, AR, VR, stuff like that. But eventually want to even grow further outside of those and still do, like I stated, life insurance, mutual funds, give you curriculums based off of the need within those communities, to where now we, like I said, we ain't just only talking about real estate. We're talking about, like I said, life insurance, mutual funds, savings, cryptocurrency, stocks, all the different financial sectors, to be able to build those out and give you a little more comprehensive learning experience.
Gotcha. Now, where can the people tap in with you? Where can they find you in terms of social, website, all that good stuff? And then you had mentioned your book a few times, so make sure that you let people know where they can tap in with your book, the name of it again, and where they can purchase.
So you guys can reach out to us at WeCannBe.com, 2 N's, WeCan, 2 N's, BE.com.
Info at WeCannBe.com with 2 N's as well.
Right. So the first one is our website. The second one he mentioned is our email. Mm-hmm. Right. But we have our 40 Acres website as well, where you'll be able to initially access our download our application on November 15th-ish, right? As of right now, we have our developers finalizing a lot of the different aspects, uploading those different properties for you guys that will be available here at the end of Q4. But then also the name of my book is called A New Nation Inside of a Nation, The Age of Technology and the Black Dollar. and it's everywhere that books are sold. So Barnes and Nobles, Amazon. It's one of 4 books that I will write in totality. Right, I have 3 books that are out. That one's my first one that I ever wrote. My second one is a book kind of about Kanye West in a sense, right? It's called A Visionary in Verse and Venture. And it talks about the mind of a visionary and what it takes to bring something that's never existed to life, right? And then based on my experience in sales, I have a third book that is a sales manual that uses all the sales methodologies that I've learned over the last 15 years, right? And puts them into a really compact way for people to digest, right? And that's called The Original Contact Sport, right? Sales being the game of inches, right? The original contact sport. So those are my collection of books, and it kind of gives people a little view into my mind, but also gives you a little view into why we do some of the things we do too. Because I wrote A New Nation Inside of a Nation early on when I started writing that concept back when I was in African American studies in college, right? And it became something I started writing notes about in my phone, and eventually published it, right? And it talks about the intersection of cybersecurity, technology, and how it weaves all of our great leaders' ideologies together, right? And how technology can close the wealth gap, how it can ultimately close the knowledge gap, right? Both here locally and globally. So
Dope.
Yes.
Dope. Well, I appreciate y'all fellas coming on to the podcast today. I really enjoy the work that you're doing and the future that you're trying to set in terms of president for our education, financial literacy, and then also how we can be able to have more equitable opportunities to get to the table. And then also in some ways building the table. So I appreciate y'all stopping by the podcast to give us that insight into the world that y'all are creating.
Follow us on Instagram, at WeCannBe with 2 N's again. Also, the 40 Acres app. It's called the 40 Acres app on Instagram too. Follow us on those platforms. We're excited, and we look forward to having y'all on board when it comes out. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, sure. And thanks for having us, man. This is amazing what you're doing also, right?
Appreciate it.
Amazing seeing you do what you do, right? Because it takes a different type of person to be able to talk to all these different business owners and people who are in the city and understand the story that they are trying to tell and be able to assist with that too, man. And it's admirable, right? And I've seen it from afar, right? And I'm overly grateful, right, for the opportunity to sit here with you and just talk, brother. So,
most definitely.
yeah,
that's high praise.